Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and today we're going to do another little update on the 32 drag car that we found in Ohio that's been off the track or out of the public's eye since probably the 50s, I would say. I got the pipes all made for it, pretty cool, and we are now very excited to hear what they sound like coming out of that engine, the sound we're going to hear. So we're going to work on today's video, kind of plumbing up the fuel system, getting that all set up. Kev in California was nice enough to send us that old military tank that he actually TIG welded a bung on the bottom for us to get us jumped ahead, save me a little bit of work. So we're going to plumb that all up and get the fuel lines run up. We got to figure out what we're doing for fuel block, fuel shutoff, fuel filter, all that stuff. Get all those pieces and dig in my parts stash and see what we can find. Steve's going to also work on getting the carbs that he rebuilt put onto the intake, get all the linkage figured out, and then hopefully we can get all those pieces together and plumbed, and by the end of this video we can fire this thing and hear it run out of those super cool pipes and bring this old race car back to life. So let's get started.
I'm going to see if we can get the carbs I rebuilt mounted on the intake manifold, and also we have a whole pile of old linkages that we're going to see if we can make everything work with 4 completely different carburetors on an intake, and see where we can get with this. so here we have our carburetor linkage, 4-carb setup for the 32 race car. Used a bunch of old Heim joints we had in stock, stuff we've picked up over the years. We had a half a drawer full of it. I was lucky enough to find a piece that worked pretty much right off the bat. Just a little straightening out and lubricating and making sure everything worked right. The throttle pedal is going to pull on the second carburetor here, and it's working pretty nice and smooth. I'm pretty happy with it. It's going to need a pretty heavy spring, you know, with all the carburetors, obviously, but I think it's going to work out just fine. So we're going to get it on the engine, and then we're going to put a fuel pump on it, and hopefully we can get it to run here shortly. That's going to be awesome. Can't wait to hear this thing with those exhaust pipes. Alright, so Steve has the carburetors, as you guys saw. We got towel over it, of course, but he's got the carburetors all connected back together with the Heim joint linkage, and our linkage to the pedals all hooked up. They seem good. I saw you testing it yesterday. Yeah, everything seems to be fine. It's got good, it's not too heavy, and it's got good return. I put a decent spring on it, and okay. So hopefully everything will be spot on for that. Let's hope so. So we are trying to figure out the fuel system here. So Steve started tinkering with that end of the day yesterday. I went up in my stash and started digging around. So trying to keep this car, we don't have any photos, but we're trying to keep this car sort of correct for the era in which when it would have ran and the parts it would have used. So Kev out in California sent us this tank. He was nice enough to send me a DM on Instagram. I don't know, months ago, and he said, what are you doing for a tank? And I was like, I'm not sure yet. And he's like, well, I got these different military tanks that are perfect for that. And he showed me some reference photos from some old drag cars, and this is the one I chose. I thought was perfect. And he actually TIG welded a bung on the bottom of it for us for a gravity feed, which is great. And then we got some extra, bungs and stuff in it. So what we want to do is get something going out of the bottom of it. So we have tons of room right here. I made that little little tray that it sits on. There's tons of room under there, but we're trying to keep it so it's not below the radiator tank. So we already tested it, but this is an old shutoff valve that is, actually I got a couple of these when I found the DeLorean Roadster. There was a bunch of this stuff in the car, and some of that stuff on the car actually. So this is a new old stock, or I don't know if it was used. If it was used, it was barely used, but I think it was like a new old stock shutoff valve that I believe is aircraft of some kind. So we're going to put a bung in this and thread it right in the bottom of the tank. We may end up rounding the corners, we're not sure yet, but that'll go in there. That way we can isolate the tank. We can shut it off if we want to pull the tank or anything and don't make as big of a mess. This again is a common thing you would see. So it's an old aircraft fuel filter that is a well-used one. This one actually still had all the safety wire on it before Steve started getting this all freed up. So this we're going to mount on the firewall. Again, that's very common stuff that you would see on the old dry lakes cars, drag cars, because this stuff was just surplus kicking around. So that'll be cool. It's got a real fine mesh funnel screen filter in it, right? That's what my other one is. That's what I thought.
And then this is just a Fenton 4.2 fuel block. I have Wind speed equipment on it, but I'm not getting that nerdy. I actually don't have one around. We've sold them before. So we're just going to use this Fenton fuel block. So these two things are going to go on the firewall. So we're going to have our fire. This is actually the top. So we'll have our fuel line come in off the frame rail, go into the side. Then this is going to have a hose or a hard line that loops over and goes to this. And then of course we'll have our 4 ports of rubber line that will go to the engine. So a lot of little pieces here to make it all work. So it's going to be a little bit of head scratch. Oh, and we got a little just cheap, not period correct, but they're cheap and easy to get. We've been using these little cheap low pressure fuel pumps on a bunch of the cars. They work well for Stromberg, so we're just going to use one of these in the frame rail. We'll let it gravity feed from the tank to that, and then that thing can pressurize the system, because we're going to forgo having a hand pump like they would have had originally, and just have a little electric pump. So that's the plan. We're going to try and put all this stuff on this car with some fuel line and see if we can eliminate leaks and make it fire. All right, so Steve's been kicking butt on this, getting all the fuel lines run and running for supplies and everything else. And we got the, he's got all this plumbed here with the vintage filter and all that stuff. We had a almost brand new fuel pump, that low pressure pump we use in a lot of these cars. It's just an Amazon pump that we had on the run stand we've been using for years. And Steve plumbed it all in, went to use it, and no fuel. So unfortunately, I got to order another one of those pumps. So right now, we are piecing together a 6-volt battery with a brand new low pressure pump that we have from Max, from one of these estates we've done. And we're going to run the fuel pump on 6-volt and then start it on 12-volt, just because we're impatient and we want to hear this thing make noise. So that's, if anybody's questioning why there's jankiness, doesn't every race car need a first start to be quite janky? And at least in our world.
That sounds fair.
Yeah, it is what it is. But that's what's going on. The pump won't be here till like the weekend, so we're just trying to use one of these pumps. We tried running this pump on 12-volt, and we're thinking that it is twice the pressure because it started overpowering the seats and was overflowing the carbs. So we do have fuel up to it, so that's better than the first pump. So try and crank this thing up, get all the timing adjusted, and hopefully have it make some sort of noise. I don't even know if I even want to hit the throttle at all.
No.
Let's see what it does.
Yep. That should be dead up number 1 there.
So it should be close enough that it should pop or do something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna take all the air off my legs when it backfires out the pipe here. Ready?
All right, so we got this thing to fire. This is a huge, huge day in making this car work. It doesn't mean that it's gonna move under its own power yet or be fast, but this old dragster, probably the first time it's made sound since the 50s, maybe the early 60s. I don't really know, but it's kind of cool that it's got a flathead engine in it and is kind of how it would have been, sort of, and it made noise. So I'm sure this car is very, very happy to be making angry sounds again, and be one step closer to being used as it's been for a good portion of its life. So we just got it to fire. Obviously, every one of these videos we get people that are keyboard warriors that yell at us because we fired an engine with no radiator. These cars do not care. It ran it for a minute or two. Shut up. We are going to put a cooling system on it, which we had a radiator in. It was just kind of in the way, and we were getting the timing adjusted and all that stuff. So we're going to put a radiator back in it. We got to figure out the lower hoses. I already kind of got the upper hoses basically figured out. They're pretty simple. We got to change the crank pulley on the bottom. The one we had on there isn't going to line up with what we want to do. So just a bunch of little stuff. We didn't wire a kill switch into the mag yet. We were just touching it to the frame to kill the engine. So we will wire all that in between the next video. And of course get a pump that is 12 volt. We had this 6 volt one cobbled together. It did work, but you know, obviously we want to get something that's correct in there. So we'll get that taken care of. And a bunch of other little odds and ends, small stuff. We'll probably try and run it and get the timing a little bit closer on it. Although it did fire very easily, even with us just kind of like zeroing the timing in and just adjusting a little bit by ear. So we're in the ballpark, so we'll get that locked down. It was turning as it was idling, so you could hear the timing change. So I kept pushing it back to kind of roughly where it needed to be. So we'll get all that stuff done, the cooling system hooked up. We'll make sure that it fires again and all the switches work how they're supposed to. We know the kill switch, the ignition switch, and all that stuff that I did in the previous video are okay. And then we get all that stuff kind of figured out. Then we can blow it apart. I can paint everything that's bare metal. I think I've decided just for this year, just dust some paint in over the bare metal and paint the frame. And let's get this thing so we can start testing, tuning it, and making it go which is the most important thing on this. Rather than try and make it super nice, let's just get some paint on it so it doesn't flash rust, and just start using the damn thing, because that's what they were meant to be done. So done with them. So big progress on the dragster. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. A little bit of sound. We didn't get to run it for real long, obviously because of the cooling system, but those pipes sound pretty awesome. Pretty stoked on that for the stuff that I did, and it's going to be really good once it's all tuned up and ready to go. But hope you guys enjoyed the progress on the dragster. Really stoked to get this thing one step closer to be able to use it again as a drag car. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.